Hi, traders. Hope all is well. I hope you're doing well. How are you? Welcome to another live trading session, live trading chat with Oliver Velez on my Oliver Velez Trading YouTube channel. I hope all is well. I hope your week went well. I hope your trading went well throughout the week. More specifically, I hope your trading went well today. Fridays can be a little tricky in the trading markets, as we know. And maybe we can talk a little bit about that today, what have you. But just want to have a little trading chat with you. I want to make sure that I'm coming through clearly for you. I want to make sure that the image is okay. I want to make sure that my audio is okay. I'm going to move my mic just a little bit closer to us here. And I'm getting fairly decent signals. I'm not getting the image up to show me whether or not I'm coming through clearly, but I trust that I am here. We're going to get started with a very fun talk here today. I want to use today's live trading session to provide a tiny bit of an update if I can. Hi guys. Tiny bit of an update if I can on the status of the channel and various other things. And I want to talk to you about the launch of a new playlist or a new series of videos which will basically deal with trading stories. And I'm really excited about this. And I've been somewhat reluctant to do this for a while, but the crescendo in amongst my traders to basically tell more stories about my trading past and some of my experiences coming up in the trading world since the early 1980s and things of that nature has been the cry for that has been so deafening and so loud, especially as of late, that I decided that perhaps this is something that those who are not necessarily directly in my trading group but are still part of my family here on YouTube and various other social networks, perhaps maybe this can be something that they find interesting, entertaining, and informative as well. Now, for those of you who are, hey guys, I'm watching your comments. Hope all is well. Guys, I am trusting that everything is okay. I am not getting full green signals on my systems here, but I see you chatting. And if a few of you can let me know, Oliver, everything is okay, I can sort of rest easy. So please chat that if everything's okay with the audio, the video, the quality. I'm hoping everything's okay. All right, so just chat that for me. Looks good. Fantastic. Great, great, great. So guys, as many of you know, and perhaps maybe some of you do not know if you're new here, many people refer to me as one of the pioneers of the trading space. I have been in the trading world since the early 1980s. I placed my first trade ever in my attempt to do this correctly some 36 years ago. I really don't refer to my history as being 36 years, even though I've been trading for a total of 36 years. I start my count from the professional years. 5 years after I started, I began a professional career in trading. And the first 5 years were quite dark and very, very difficult. When I began this amazing, amazing journey into the professional trading world, I want you to understand that the internet was about a decade off in terms of its ubiquitous nature in the culture, in the human culture. It was alive in the early 1980s, but the vast majority of people had no concept of what it was, nor was it widely used. It was primarily used by the military at that particular time. The internet, the advent of the internet had not really taken hold in the normal culture of everyday living or life until really like the mid 1990s. But remember, when I first started in the 80s, the internet was not prevalent. It was something that the trading world did not even touch or did not even have a notion about. There were no teachers at that particular time. The only way to learn was to try to get hired by a professional trading firm. And that was extraordinarily difficult, particularly if you wanted a very, very upscale, high level trading firm that was doing some amazing things in the world, like Goldman Sachs and Solomon Brothers and JP Morgan and companies of that stature. It was very difficult to crack those doors. You had to have a certain educational background. You had to have connections. You, in many cases, had to have a certain type of skin color, and you had to come from a certain pedigree, and your last name had to be a certain thing. And this is how it was in the early 1980s. So cracking the doors of traditional Wall Street was very difficult for someone like me. Um, and there, it was before there was seminars galore, and before obviously there was, you know, a zillion and one individuals or organizations that claim to be able to teach you how to trade. This was just not the world. There were a very small handful of books on the market. Largely futures oriented trading books were more prevalent than any books that dealt with any other market like the stock market. And then you had your classics like Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, which is something that I carried with me for years, every single day of my life. And I read passages from that book every single day of my life. And I strongly encourage that that is a book that you read at least once a year for your entire trading life. The name of the author is Edwin Lefevre. The title of the book is Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. It is a story that is loosely based on the history of Jesse Livermore, one of the greatest traders to ever walk the planet. But what was very gripping to me about that book was that it dealt with a lot of the psychological challenges of trading and becoming a successful trader, which was what I was experiencing during the first years of my history in this industry. And these were some very dark years, and I attribute my daily reading of that book to helping me stay alive, helping me keep the faith in a time where almost everyone in my life abandoned me, did not understand why I had this passion, did not understand why I chose to do this with my life, why I chose to not use my formal education, why I chose to basically abandon everything and everyone in exchange for becoming successful at this industry. And no one at that particular time knew what trading is. Even today, guys, trading is very, very misunderstood by the general public. So imagine in 1982, yeah, 81, 82, it was crazy, right? So dark years helped very much by this book, Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. Strongly recommended. But there were not many things, aids that helped an individual trader because it wasn't something prevalent. It wasn't something that the general public had connected to as of yet. And so there was no need for, there was no demand for courses and seminars and things of that nature. In addition to that, in the early 1980s, guys, the equity market in particular, which is the market that I have traded the vast majority of my life, it just wasn't in vogue. The bond market was in vogue. If you know history, back from from late 1960s into maybe the early 1980s, the equity market that as measured by the Dow Jones Industrial Average would never break above 1,000. So people thought that 1,000 was just the ceiling for the Dow Jones Industrial Average and it would never be higher. And so there was this boring kind of sideways decade and a half movement in the equity market. And the people who really wanted to enter Wall Street and make money wanted to get on a bond desk. The bonds were for gentlemen. Bonds were for the big traders. Bonds were where the bond division of a firm was where the big giant traders were, and no one wanted to be on the equity desk. This largely changed starting from 1982 when the massive unprecedented bull market of the 1980s just took off, and the a lot of factors led to that, and I was inserted into the market during this most incredible, exciting time. And so I have a very long pedigree in this industry, entering the market when the equity markets came alive again, starting from the early 1980s, having 5 years of very, very dark period, learning, trial and error, losing massive amounts of money, losing almost my entire life in the process, losing my family almost in the process. But December 5th of 1986, I began my real professional trading career. And those are the years that you typically hear from me, that I've been trading professionally for the past 31 years, starting from December 5th of 1986. And the occurrences and the history and the things that I've experienced, the things that I've been a part of during that period, the things that I've helped to contribute to during that period, are wide and vast, and I believe some of these experiences might be of help to you. Now, I'm going to start off this series with something that's not actually directly related to trading, because I'm still sort of doing this as a little test. So I didn't want to jump into anything too serious. But it is a story that's very dear to me. And I decided to do this on a whim today because I ordered a delivery from the supermarket, and the supermarket here in Medellin, Colombia, delivered 3 gifts for me, and they were I don't know if you can see that, 3 Snickers bars as a thank you for my business, and a reminder to vote. This bar sort of came with crazy here. This bar came with a sticker attached to it to remind individuals to vote here in Colombia. There's a very important election going on here in the country of Colombia this upcoming Sunday. All right? But to many of you, this is just another candy bar, this Snickers bar. But to me, this bar, every time I see one, every time I touch one, every time I am offered the ability to eat one, it reminds me of one of the most important lessons I learned in my entire life. Let me tell you a story. When I was young, 9 years old, 10 years old, for periods of time, I had a cousin. His name was Tony. He lived with us. He lived with my mom and dad. I'm an only child. I have no brothers and sisters. So I always welcomed these periods of months where my cousin would be with me, because I yearned for nothing more than having brothers and sisters. I would envy my friends when we would be playing in the street and our parents would call and say, "Okay, guys, it's time to come in." I would come home to what I considered to be a lonely home. My friends would go home with their brothers and sisters and still be able to engage and have fun. I hated being an only child as a child. So I relished these periods when my cousin would come over, and for whatever reason, he would just spend enormous amounts of time. The summers, certain periods during vacations, several weeks at a time, and sometimes several months at a time. And we both had this affection for Snickers bars. And my mother knew this, so occasionally when she came home from work, we would run to the door to greet my mother, because we knew that perhaps she decided to bring us both a Snickers bar. And on the occasions when my mom would bring a Snickers bar for both Tony and me, we would immediately rip the Snickers bar open and begin to go to work on the Snickers bar. Now, here's where the story gets interesting. I learned very early that my cousin Tony was a very slow eater of the Snickers bar, very slow. And the first time this happened, I would just devour my Snickers bar and have to literally watch this guy with almost all of his Snickers bar just savoring the bar little by little, and mine was gone. And I would ask Tony, can you give me a little piece? And he would say, no, you had yours. And so I learned very quickly that I'm not going to eat my Snickers bar very quickly anymore. I don't want to be the one without a Snickers bar. I want to be the one, I want to be the individual in this scenario who has the Snickers bar the last. So, thus begun the Snickers bar challenge between Tony and me. Check this out. I'm going to try to separate this if I can and show you. I began mastering the art of eating a Snickers bar as slowly as I possibly can. Now, I didn't cut this very well, but I don't know if you can see this. There are actually two individual layers inside of a Snickers bar. I don't know if you can see that very clearly. Let me see if I can get a little focus there for you. Boom. Will it come in focus, focus, focus for me? Maybe not. Maybe I can't get it in focus. But trust me, guys, there are two layers of a Snickers bar if you cut it open. But actually there's three layers if you count the peanuts. So here's how I would begin to dissect a Snickers bar. I would actually very slowly take the chocolate layer off. This would take an hour and a half or so. I would take little by little by little of the chocolate pieces off. And once the chocolate bar was devoid of chocolate, you would have the two layers revealed. There was this gooey white layer beneath and this caramel layer above, which was saturated with peanuts. Now, the next thing I would do is I would take the lower layer off, that white layer off, but little by little, hoping that I was doing it slow enough so that Tony would finish before me so that I could get him back when he asked me for a portion of my bar, and I would be able to say, no, you had yours already. So I would take the chocolate off first. I would take the bottom white layer off second, right? And that would just leave the caramel layer, which is the top layer, which would be saturated with peanuts. Well, that was just the beginning. I would take peanut by peanut out of the caramel and eat one peanut at a time as slowly as I possibly could, hoping that in the other room, I'm doing it a lot more slowly than my cousin Tony. All right, after the caramel layer is completely devoid of peanuts, it's just the caramel left. And this layer is by far the most delicious layer of the Snickers bar. And I would just nibble it as long as I possibly can, little by little by little. As difficult as it was because it's so delicious. And I would finish my bar and hope that I did it slower than my cousin Tony. Well, traders, I never beat him. I could never eat the bar. I could never eat the bar slower than Tony. I would finish the bar thinking that I took ages to do this, and he would have like 1/4 of the bar finished. I could never be that patient. It was just too delicious for me, and I never was able to beat Tony. But I realized Tony would have his bar for a day and a half, 2 days. This is ridiculous. Almost 3 days at times. My mother, realizing that Tony still had his bar, would occasionally bring me another Snickers bar. And then it hit me, traders. It hit me that actually by losing to Tony, I won. I actually got more Snickers bars than Tony got because his Snickers bars would last 2, 3 days. And my mother sometimes would bring me another Snickers bar because she didn't want to see me without a Snickers bar. So then I began pretending to compete with Tony, but losing quite rapidly on purpose just to get more Snickers bars. Now, some of you might be saying, well, Oliver, that's kind of a silly story, so what's the point? This story, this occurrence, this history of mine taught me a very valuable lesson in life. And it taught me, in particular, guys, a very valuable lesson for my trading. And it's still often that this story is brought to my memory in my trading. A major turning point occurred in my trading when I realized that focusing on losing was the way to progress in my trading. And I realized this about 3 years into my trading. 3 years of struggling, 3 years of trying to get this right, 3 years of studying, 3 years of trading, 3 years of losing, 3 years of record keeping, 3 years of going back to the drawing board, 3 years of trying to find better and better ways to produce profitability. And it's only after 3 years that something clicked. And what clicked for me was that I was looking in the wrong direction. What clicked to me was that I was trying to win, and that you can't win first. Winning is second. I was trying to beat Tony in my trading instead of focusing on losing to win. Now let's delve into this a little bit more thoroughly. I am constantly, in a philosophical way, explaining to my traders that you lose your way to winning. That you cannot go to winning directly first, that you must lose first. And this is what many untrained traders in the market today do not understand. They are out there searching for winning trades when in fact that's the second step. And you can't get the second step unless you get the first step first. You lose your way to success in this game. And I'm constantly in a philosophical way saying this is the way life is structured. This is the way Providence has dictated things. This is the way the universe has it for us. That first you step backwards in order to leap very far forward. First you stoop down, you squat before you can leap very high. First, you put a seed or an acorn down into the ground first, into the darkness below ground level first, and then it grows higher, right? In order to push a swing really far, you pull a swing back first, and then you push the swing forward, all right? In order to propel a bow and arrow, you pull the bow and arrow back first, and boom, then it can take forward with great force, violence, and velocity. In order to cause a bullet to project forward in a gun or rifle, you pull the trigger back first for the bullet to go forward. Everything in life, slingshot, everything in life has this order: back, then forward, down, then up, loss, then win. You lose your life first in order to gain it. In order for light to be recognized as light or to be appreciated, there must be darkness first. A child is first in the mother's womb in darkness, not revealed to the world. And 9 months later, more or less, my children, all of my children are early, then they're revealed to the light. Darkness is first. Down is first. Squatting is first. Back is first. Loss is first. And so the wrong focus is trying to beat Tony. The wrong focus initially is trying to win. Why does this not work in trading? Listen to me carefully. Why does this not work in trading? It does not work in trading. It does not work in life. It does not work in anywhere. A child is falling in their first attempts to walk first. They learn to walk through falling. Their balance is developed by falling and getting up, falling and getting up, falling a little bit less and getting up, falling a little bit less and getting up. And doctors tell us that a child who does not fall very frequently turns out to be a clumsy child. If parents protect them from falling, if parents do not let them fall and pull themselves back up, they will likely never be athletes. They will never be ambidextrous. They'll never have balance. They'll be clumsy and awkward children. This is just the way the order is. Now, you discover first what not to do. You remove what proper trading is not. This game is won by a process called negation. What do I mean by a process called negation? You first discover what proper trading is not. So it is called not this. That's not proper trading. Let me eliminate that. This was not proper. Let me eliminate that. And then you eliminate this, and then you eliminate that. And through the process of eliminating what proper trading is not, what eventually is left is what proper trading is. But listen to this. Proper trading is like the needle in a haystack. It is very difficult to find unless you clear the haystack first. So the haystack is far more abundant than the little needle proper trading inside of the haystack. So to go into the haystack with the idea of finding the needle it's not going to happen. You have to eliminate portions of the haystack, portion by portion by portion. You got to say, oh, this is not the needle. This is not, this is not, this is not, this is not, this piece of hay is not the needle. This piece of hay is not the needle. And as you eliminate the haystack, you can get that haystack low enough to the point where you see something glimmering. And what you see is the needle in the haystack. Eventually, you'll begin to see what is proper trading. I've always explained this to my children as such when I'm teaching them these trading concepts. Imagine that we have a big giant window, and I would have this lesson in front of our big giant window, which looked over, right, our landscape. We had a beautiful landscape in White Plains, New York, and big giant picturesque window looking over the landscape, right? And I'd say, let's paint the window. And we would literally paint the window with soap. I would say, draw your favorite characters, your pictures, but I don't want any part of the window uncovered by soap bars. So we would get different color soaps and paint the whole window. Now, when we painted the window, it would block, right, the landscape. And I would tell them that, has the landscape now disappeared? And they would say, no, Daddy, the landscape is behind our drawings. And I says, well, what must you do to reveal the truth, the landscape? And they would say, well, we have to remove the soap markings. And I said, well, let's begin. And so we would move one corner of the soap markings, and then you would see one portion of the landscape. It says if we want to see the full truth, if we want that to be revealed, we have to first go through a removal process, right? Let's remove all of the soap off of the window, and let's see what happens after that. We remove all of the soap, and they say, yes, now we see the truth. Now we see the entire landscape. Now we understand what's behind the soap markings. These are all messages to say really the same thing. That you discover proper trading by first discovering what is not proper trading. You lose your way to that higher state of knowledge. You lose your way to knowing what is correct. To keep all of the soap markings is to make the game almost impossible to see the truth, to see what is right. To keep all of the haystack is to make finding the needle, finding correct trading correct. The attempt to beat Tony is wrong. The attempt to win first is wrong. And this is why this is one of the reasons why the industry has such a high failure rate, is because who wants to lose first? No one does. Who is excited about someone saying that, listen, your first period in this is going to be loss? But yet, in everything else in life, we understand that this is the normal way. All right? The first time you pick up a basketball, you can't win. Do you understand? The first time you pick up a saw or a hammer to try to be a carpenter, it's going to be horrible. The first time you attempt to walk, you're not going to walk. You're going to fall. The first time you try to ride a bike, you're not going to be eligible for a professional bike ride. You're going to fall. We understand this when it comes to everything else, but when it comes to trading, when it comes to the most challenging endeavor in life, when it comes to the financial markets, when it comes to your money, you want right away to win. And what else in life offers that possibility? Everything in life, everything in the universe is back before you go forward, down before you go up, fall before you can stand, crawl before you can walk, walk before you can run. That's the process. I want you to understand this going forward. I want you to try to change the paradigm about losing. I want you to appreciate your losses. I want you to actually make losing the purpose. Flip it, turn it around. Watch what this is going to do with your trading. Turn the whole thing upside down and say, today I am going to lose. And I'm going to lose properly. I'm going to lose consciously. I'm going to lose with the idea of learning from the loss, finding an error, and eliminating that error. Now, how do you eliminate a trading error? All you have to do, once you have identified an error in your trading that is actually causing a loss, all you have to do is do 8 trades without committing that error, and the error is gone forever. Think about this. Let's say one of your errors is fail to take my stop. I get into a trade, I place, I say I'm going to get out at a maximum loss of $150. I will not lose more than $150 on any given trade. And let's say you tend to lose $220, $250, $300, and you can't seem to do this. You say, listen, I am losing too much because I'm violating my promise to myself of a maximum loss of $150. Well, do 8 trades in a row. So now forget winning. Do not focus on winning in the next several trades. The goal is not to win. The goal is to get past 8 trades with less than a $150 loss. Do it 8 times in a row, and it's yours. If you happen to do it 4 times in a row and violate it on the 5th time, you start from scratch again. The magic number is 8. 8 trades without an error in a row. It doesn't matter if they're 8 losing trades. That's not the point. It's 8 losing trades or 8 winning trades, or a mixture of 8 trades that are wins and losses without violating that $150 promise. And you have it forever. Then you move on to the next era. Maybe you're entering trades too late. You see the opportunity, you're scared, you want the trades to show you a little bit more, and then you wind up chasing the trades. Maybe that's causing you a problem. You have identified another demon entering your trades too late, taking advantage of your opportunities too late, hesitating. Now, write that down. The next 8 trades in a row, it doesn't matter if they're wins or losses, you commit them without hesitating, without doubting, without chasing. Do that 8 times in a row, and that demon is killed. I want you to understand that when you flip the goals from winning, trying to get a gain, to trying to kill a demon, trying to kill an error, forget winning, all of a sudden you're going to look around after killing 2, 3, 4 errors, 4 demons. Oh my God. Look at my count. I'm up. It's impossible not to start winning if you remove the things that are holding the winning trades back. You don't win in the beginning of your life by trying to win. You win by removing what is in the way of your winning. You can't take the bad baggage into the land of profitability. You must reduce the bad baggage first. I'll tell you one more metaphor for this, okay? It's a metaphor that I share with my traders from time to time. I grew up in a very religious family. My mother was religious beyond belief. I stayed in church so much that I thought that going home was actually going on vacation. My mother kept me in front of the piano and in church. And that was the vast majority of my life as an adolescent. And as a result of this, I just became very familiar with biblical stories. My mother's a Christian, and so I was just bombarded with biblical stories. One of the stories is the story of a parable by Jesus that said something like, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven. Right? I heard this my entire childhood. It is easier for a camel, and as a child I'm imagining a camel, to go through the eye of a needle. Now, we know what a needle is in the eye, and you thread the needle. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. I'm like, what the heck does that mean as a child, right? And then I just began to do a lot of research, being curious about that, and then boom, I got it. I discovered that this saying comes from a time when, caravans would travel from kingdom to kingdom or town to town or settlement to settlement, selling their wares to these different towns and kingdoms and settlements, right? And the mode of transportation was camels, and they would pack the camels with all kinds of merchandise, and there might be 27 camels with a whole bunch of merchandise stacked on top of each camel, all right? And they would travel with this caravan from city to city, from kingdom to kingdom, and that's how these merchants made money, all right? Now, the eye of a needle was typically referred to as the opening in many of the fortresses. So these fortresses would protect themselves against enemies by building tall walls that were almost impossible for humans to scale. And so they would protect their city by building tall walls. And the openings into the walls, into the cities, were called eyes. And they were very small doors, doors so small that grown-up humans would typically have to bend down and enter under through the door, not standing full up. So the doors weren't as the doors are made today. The doors were made very small, like eyes of a needle that you would have to go through. Small openings in the fortress to protect the city. Now, in order to actually get the camels or the caravan through the eyes, they would first have to divest each camel of all of its merchandise. So camel by camel would step up to the eye, the opening to the fortress, right? And then the individuals that were working, the workers of the caravan, would take merchandise after merchandise off the camel's back. Once the camel was divested of all of its merchandise, it then had to be brought to its knees. And the camel would be pulled down and brought to its knees. And once the camel was on all four knees, the employees would then push the camel so that it would crawl on its knees through the eye of the fortress. And so the saying became very popular. The eye of a needle was the eye or the opening into the kingdom, into the city, into the kingdom of God in this case. And I use this metaphor for my traders all the time. In order to enter the kingdom of profitability, in order to enter the fortress, in order to enter the kingdom of consistent profitability, you must first divest yourself. You must first get rid of what you're not supposed to have. You can't have the kingdom before you go through an elimination process, an elimination of this error, an elimination of that problem, this demon, this fault, this mistake. And so the process of the camel being divested is divesting of the errors, divesting itself of its bad habits, divesting itself of its discovered demons, its faults, its errors, its erroneous beliefs, the whole 9 yards. And then once you're divested, you're naked. You have nothing. You have gotten rid of all the things that are covering you up. Then you're brought to your knees. This is my whole 5-year process. When I discovered that I first had to eliminate things before profitability was possible, my progress turned. I stopped focus on making money and I started focusing on divesting myself of all of these things that were standing in the way of my profitability. Entering too late, sometimes entering too soon, failing to keep my promise on a maximum loss per trade, not adding to winning plays, that's a problem. Not taking profits when profits should be taken, that's a problem. Taking everything off the table when I have a little gain too soon, that's a problem. You understand? Not getting in for the second move after a power move, that's a problem. Not selling on new highs when the vast majority of the world buys new highs, that's a problem. All of these things, I began to stop focusing on trying to win with my baggage. Stop focusing on trying to enter the kingdom with all of this on my back. Stop trying to enter the kingdom of consistent profitability and keep my baggage. The first step, get rid of the baggage. The second step, bring you down to your knees to the most humble state possible. And it is only when you are divested, naked, and humble do you have any chance of entering the small opening into the land of profitability. And trust me when I tell you, that opening to the other side is very small. That is what the proverb or the parable is all about. It is easier, all right, for a camel to enter the go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man. Rich with what? Rich with your false beliefs, rich with your lack of discipline, rich with your errors, rich with your mistakes. You haven't become poor. You haven't divested yourself first. So, those individuals who approach trading like I was approaching trading my first 3 years in this business, trying to win, the odds are against you. Not failing to understand that you lose your way to success first, that you fall first and learn how to get back up, and you fall again and learn how to get back up, that you must focus on losing to discover what must be removed first before it becomes clear. Wow, there's the needle in the haystack. Wow, there's the Holy Grail finally. Wow, there's the landscape. Now that I've removed enough of the soap markings, now I can see where I should go, what I should do. Now I can see profitability. And I hope I haven't I hope I haven't been too convoluted in explaining this. But backwards losing is the very best thing that can happen to you as you start this game. But losing the right way, losing with the idea of I'm going to lose and keep track of the errors that have caused many of my losses. And then I'm going to go on a mission. Once I've identified an error, I'm going to go on a mission of doing 8 to 10 trades without committing that error. And I'm going to knock down problem by problem, error by error, mistake by mistake, until profits happen. You don't make profits happen. They occur. I'm going to repeat that. You don't make profits happen. They happen to you if you've removed enough of the mistakes out of the way. If a stock goes from $20 to $24, what did you do except pray? Nothing. The $4 gain happened to you. You stayed out of the way. If you enter a trade and it goes in your favor, $600, what did you do during the process except pray? Nothing. You did not physically move the stock or the item that you're trading. You did not call up your billionaire friends to help move the stock because you don't have them. You did nothing. Winning happens to you. Losing properly comes from you. Winning comes from the market. And so this is a partnership where the market takes care of the winning side as long as you lose properly. I learned this lesson from a candy bar. I learned this lesson from a Snickers bar. I learned this lesson from my cousin Tony. You lose to win. All right, guys. I just felt like sharing that story with you. All right. What can I help you with? What questions can I answer while I'm here? I've got 10 minutes for you. Right now, I have a Oliver Velez Trading Kids Camp going on. I am due in 10 minutes to hang out and go over some things with my trading kids. These kids range from the ages of 10 and 15 years old. And yes, I develop children into traders. And guess what? They trade better than you. They trade better than you. They're from the computer era. They're from the gaming era. They're not psychologically tied to winning and losing the way adults typically are. They're not filled with bad habits or erroneous beliefs. They get it, and they get it a lot faster than adults. It's sort of like learning a language, you know. Children get it faster. So the earlier you can start your children in this game of trading, the better. All right. So I'm looking at your am I back? Did I come back? I think so. I think I came back. All right. Let's see. Am I back? Yes? Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. So, guys, I hope you got an opportunity here to just understand what I kind of tried to get to in a sort of roundabout way. I know it's difficult. I know that the beginning phase of trading is the darkest of all. I know that the very thing that you want, which is to win right away, I understand, being in this business 31 years, that it's the worst thing that can possibly happen to you. I want you to understand this, traders, that if you win before there's a certain amount of seasoning in place, it's not winning, it's luck. If you win before a certain amount of experience is under your belt, it's not winning, it's luck. If you win, traders, before you've been brought to the breaking point, you can't ever be a master. If you experience light before darkness, you can't appreciate the light. It'll never happen, and it will easily be distinguished. This is just the way things are. You can never, ever hope to be a master unless you first master yourself. You can't master the markets until you first master yourself. And the mastery of yourself happens through loss. You learn to walk by first falling. It's just the natural order of things. It is the process of negation where you discover what not to do first, so that what you're supposed to do finally becomes obvious and stands in all of its glory in front of you. And this industry has such a high failure rate because most people quit before that process is complete. Most people have incorrect expectations. They expect to win first before experience. How can that be? How can you hope to be good without first becoming experienced? And experience is both-sided. You can't have a one-sided experience. You can't just win. That's not experience. Experience is the whole thing. Winning, losing, getting destroyed, having amazing periods, having the worst periods of your life, wanting to quit, wanting to do this for the rest of your life, feeling happy, feeling sad, wanting to give up, wanting to go full force. All of that is part of the process. And I feel it's a travesty that you have so many people in this industry not teaching the fact that first you lose, and then there's a hope for winning if you use losing as the tool to propel yourself. And I learned this lesson from a Snickers bar, that by losing, I actually won more Snickers. And I learned this in my trading, that by focusing on losing and finding the reason for my losses and eliminating reason by reason, one by one, without trying to win, brought about the winners. All right, traders. All right. I need it, guys. Yes, I do need a Snickers bar. Guys, I'm going to get to my children here. Always amazing hearing from you. If you have not watched the video, the trap, a lot of you have been sending me your trap plays. It's amazing seeing your progress with that very, very valuable 81% trading tactic. Please go out there. Make sure you get that video in if you haven't already. And I'm always interested in seeing how you're progressing with that tactic. Okay, guys? Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I will see many of you this weekend during my Trade the Open Like a Boss online trading event. All right. Thank you all. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your kind comments. Thank you thank you internet trolls. Thank you haters. Thank you everyone. Thank you all. All right. Talk to you later. Ciao for now.